This is an important day. We have many revolutionaries, and I use the term because I think we are revolutionaries, the people who gather here today, who can travel from many distant cities to be with us today. They are revolutionaries, not violent revolutionaries, but revolutionaries of peace, prosperity, freedom, and you can only do that through justice. And unfortunately, those of us who are lawyers here understand that in the best of the law schools, they don't teach you justice, they teach you what the law is, even if the law is unjust. So we're here to talk about change. So let's talk about the Fed. And I want to just read from something that Kelso wrote to define money, because most people don't understand money. And Kelso said, money is not a part of the visible sector of the economy. People do not consume money. Money is not a physical factor of production, but rather a yardstick for measuring economic input, economic outtake, and the relative value of the real goods and services of the economic world. Money provides a method of measuring obligations, rights, powers, and privileges. What's clear from this definition of money is that money is a social good. It's not something that you can see. It's an artifact, that is something developed by civilization to facilitate economic transactions. Transactions that are supposed to be for the common good. Like any other human tool or technology, this tool can be used justly or unjustly. It can be used by a few who control it to suppress the natural creativity of people. Or it can be used to achieve economic liberation and prosperity for all affected by the money economy. Baron Rothschild was allegedly quoted as having said, "Let me issue and control a nation's money, and I care not who writes the laws." Very important. He may not have said it, but it happens to be a truth. And what we have in the world, the top 88 wealthiest people in the world, because of the money systems of the world, own more than the bottom 3.5 billion citizens of the world. Something is out of whack. Why is it out of whack? Because why do you produce? But for consumption. But if you can't consume the income from all those billions, something's wrong. You take if you want to get a graphic picture of it, take the average earnings of a household in America, something a little over $50,000, and say, let's measure it in $100 bills. That's about 2 inches will describe what the average income is. And obviously, for the poor, it's a lot less than that. And they don't earn. They must depend on somebody else, the poorest of the poor, somebody else providing them an income. And then if you take a Wall Street hedge fund operator in 1 year, earned over $3.5 billion in 1 year gambling. $3.5 billion. And you measure that in $100 bills, that's about 5 miles high. And then if you take 1 year, Bill Gates accumulated, added in capital gains, $50 billion. In $100 bills, that's as high as Mount Everest. Okay? That's the way the system is designed. Who is responsible for how the money flows, how the credit flows? Right there, the Federal Reserve. They are responsible. The American dollar is the reserve currency of the world. Back in the, after the Second World War, they got together and they made the American currency the reserve currency of the world. All nations were supposed to be guided by the American dollar, and it took, it was about $32 for every ounce of gold. So they had something to measure it with. Well, then when Nixon came in, they threw that out. And today, an ounce of gold is $1,300. When I went to UConn as an undergraduate, I was able to go paying a tuition of $125 a year. Now I know there are graduates here who've gone through undergraduate work and go through graduate school, and they accumulate hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. And they're told by academia that the purpose of an education is to get a job. In the meantime, the system is designed so that new technologies displace people at all kinds of jobs. You develop energy slaves, information slaves, to displace people in many forms of work. So how can that person, student, now look with confidence? They now are recognizing it's a lie. We're being lied to by academia. Because the purpose of an education is not to get a job, but to be able to think and be open to ideas. And I blame, even more than I blame the Fed, I blame academia for not teaching people the fact that ownership is increasingly more important than the job. Even though if it's done right for many decades, we can increase, we can grow the economy at faster rates, building ownership into every child, woman, and man, and income from ownership. Why not that? Why shouldn't university professors be able to, in the future, be able to have accumulated enough to teach for free? This is what Aristotle was talking about. The purpose of education, the ultimate purpose of civilization, is to move from economic work, which at the time of Aristotle was based on the backs of slaves, to the work of civilization, leisure work. So let me kind of wrap that up and talk about the Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve has the power under existing law to finance the growth so that every man, woman, and child could be an owner. The tax laws have to be changed, but the Federal Reserve has an obligation, and we have, and will be delivering to the Fed, a declaration of monetary justice. And we've been doing that for 10 years. And frankly, it's even before this time. In 1979, I was able to, the farmers came to town and were really shut down Washington. They brought 450 tractors to Washington. And they were all barricaded finally by DC transit buses. And I was able to bring the leaders together with the mayor, and I said, the farmers are prepared to leave, not revolt and cause conflict, but they want one last tractorcade. And he said, okay, he opened it up. And for the first time in history, you had a protest at the Fed. And they had the 450 tractors coming down Constitution Avenue, surrounding the Fed. We had a meeting there. That was the first meeting and protest meeting at the Fed. Now's the time to get out to the American people. It's time for you to end your enslavement under the present system. We're not going to blame the rich. No, the rich are not the problem. The greedy are not the problem. The crooked are not the problem. The problem is the system that brings that about. If the system is ours, the system is of the people, by the people, for the people, now it's time to take it back. Now it's the time to demand that it be changed. Thank you very much.